Good afternoon to everyone. Before we totally start for our topic, allow this group to pray to all of you. To the Catholic Church, please sign of the cross, and to the other religion, feel the presence of God. Heavenly Father, Lord God, thank you po, Lord God, for this wonderful afternoon that you've given to us, Father. To learn with this topic, I pray, Lord God, that you've given us knowledge, wisdom, to understand this topic that we're going to discuss this afternoon. In the mighty name of Jesus, Amen. To the Catholic Church, please sign off the cross.
Good day, everyone. We are Group 5, and today we'll be presenting a report about training evaluation. Each member of the group has prepared a part of this discussion that we work together to make it clear and informative. We hope you listen attentively and learn something new from our presentation. And now, let's proceed to the learning objectives of our topic. Next, please. Learning objectives. First is to understand and apply the four levels of Kirkpatrick's evaluation model. Second is to learn how to calculate the return on investment or ROI. Third is to identify and select appropriate evaluation design. And lastly, to explore and implement various data collection methods. Next, please. Agenda. First is introduction. Second is the Kirkpatrick's four-level model. Third is the return on investment calculations methods. Fourth is evaluation designs and metrics. Fifth is data collection and techniques. And lastly, reporting and feedback. Next, please. And now, we are going to tackle about the introduction of our topic, training evaluation. Training evaluation can be viewed as serving three purposes. First is decision making, feedback, and marketing, according to Krager 2002. Decision making is it provides the objectives data that helps the stakeholders to determine whether a training program should be continued, modified, or discounted. Second is the feedback. It offers the insights into how the training meets its objectives. And lastly, it's marketing. Its results can be used to demonstrate the success and impact of training initiatives. Next, please.
Good day, I am Julian Agasid, and for today I will be discussing to you the difference between the assessment and the evaluations. So first, the assessment. When we say assessment, it is focused on the individual learner's performance and their ability to demonstrate the specific skills or knowledge taught in the training. So its purpose is to answer the question, did the learner achieve the intended learning outcome? This this process is about measurement and the observation. It is a systematic activity that involves using various tools such as the quizzes, practical exercises, and as well as the role playing and the competency checks to gather the evidence of what a person has learned. The results provide direct feedbacks on the learner's mastery of the content. So for the evaluations, when we say evaluation, it is a broader, more strategic process. It uses the data from the assessment along with the critical information to make a judgment about the overall value and the effectiveness of the entire training program. So its purpose is to answer the question, was this training program a worthwhile investment for the organization? So the evaluation is not just about individual performance, but it is also about making informed decisions. Next. So for the assessments, this approach can be applied to different types of assessments such as the diagnostic and formative and summative. So each of this has a role in measuring the learner's progress and overall performance. So first we have the it is independent of the time and place. So this means that the students or the trainees can take the assessment anytime and anywhere, which make it flexible and more convenient. The second is it is independent of time and place. So this means that the second one is it is easy to distribute to the students. So unlike the paper-based exam, online tests can be shared with just one click, saving time and resources. The third one is the feedback to students. So the learners don't need to wait for the results and they can trust the feedback is accurate and free from the personal bias. And next, we have the every student is able to respond to every questions asked. So this will ensure that the equal participations and no one is left behind during the assessments. Next is the students can access self-assessment exercises. So it is where the learners can check their own progress and identify which areas they still need to improve. And lastly, we have the online assessment can be used to make the learning experience of the students much more personal and challenging according to Erasmus 2017. So this means that online platforms can be designed to adjust to the learner's levels and giving tasks that are suited to their ability. And this way, the assessment is not only fair but also motivating since learners are pushed to think critically and perform better. Next. Next is we have the assessment process. So in assessment process, they have different steps. So in step one, is to prepare for the assessment. So means identifying what needs to be assessed, gathering the right materials and setting clear criteria. In step 2, plan your assessment. This includes deciding on the method, scheduling the activity, ensuring the resources are available. In step 3, we need to prepare the candidate for the assessment. Learners should be informed of the purpose, process, and as well as the expectation so they can be ready and not be surprised. In step 4, conduct the assessment. This is the part where the assessment actually happens. So the students take the test, do the task or the demonstrate the skills while the assessor observes. And step 5, document all the evidence you have gathered. So it is needed you write down or collect all the results and performance. So there is a record of what happened. In step 6, we need to evaluate the evidence and make assessment judgments. So you need to interpret the result to see if the learning objective were met. In step 7, provide feedback to the relevant parties. So you need to give comments and advice to tell the learners what uh, did they well or what they need to improve. And last step is to review the entire assessment process. So according to, again, Erasmus 2017, reflect on the overall process, what went well and what challenges came up, and what improvements can be made next time. So this step will ensure continuous improvements in how the assessments are conducted. Next. Next is the moderation and assessment. So this is a process that supports and evaluates the assessment environment. So the process and the instruments, the goal is to confirm that the results are reliable and authentic and also to improve the overall quality of both the assessment and the assessors. So in this step, it consists four steps. So in step 1, you need to establish the standards. So this means that setting clear and consistent criteria will guide how the assessment should be done. And step two, uh, measure the actual performance. So this is about checking how the assessment was actually carried out or comparing it with the standards. In step three, we need to evaluate the deviation. Here, we'll look for differences or gaps between the standards and the actual performance. And last step is the step four. We need to take corrective action. So, according again to Erasmus 2017, this means that applying solution to fix the gaps, errors that were found. The purpose is to improve the quality of future assessment and ensure that the results are fair and consistent. Next is we have the purpose of program evaluation. So this evaluation is very important because it makes the training more meaningful and effective. So we have the proving. So it means the purpose here is to show clear evidence that change has really taken place as a result of training. We also have the improving. So the focus on making current or future programs better by addressing weakness and building on strength. And we also have the learning. This is the evaluation part of the learning process since it allows both the trainers and participants to reflect on the progress. Plus, as we have the controlling, it is about checking if the training is being delivered properly and it meets the required standards. But controlling goes deeper than that. It provides critical insights across several keys of our operation, helping us make better decisions. So we have the um, on employee performance, which it helps to determine how individuals are performing after the training. Next is on course improvement. It shows which part of the training are effective and which need to be improved. Next is on administrative decision. It supports decision on whether the training function as a whole is effective. And last, on outcomes, it checks the expected results are achieved and provides feedback for future programs. Next. Next is we have the principles of evaluation. So these principles are important because they guide they guide us on how the training should be properly evaluated. So we have the continuous process. This means that evaluation does not only happen at the end of the training, it should be done during and after the program to monitor the progress. It needs to be well planned. Evaluation must be organized with clear objectives and expected outcomes. It cannot be done randomly or without preparations. And accurate measuring instruments. So the tools used in evaluation must be reliable and appropriate so that the results are valid for decision making. Next is we have the quality control. So the evaluation also acts a form of quality control to ensure that the training meeting the standards and producing the intended results. So the principles of the evaluation shows that the process should be continuous, well planned based on an accurate tools used as a form of quality control and directed not only at the learners but also at the entire training system. Next. For this part, I will be discuss the different types of evaluation. Each type serves as a specific purpose in measuring how effective a training program is and how well learners are able to apply what they have learned. First, we have the formative evaluation. So this is also called um, developmental evaluation. It is used while designing instruction so that the data can be gathered and revision can be made to make the training more efficient and effective. Next is we have the summative evaluation. This is done to measure the extent of learning, to see how learners have changed after completing the training program. Next is the post-instructional evaluation. This takes place after the training course has been delivered. It checks the immediate outcomes once the program is finished. We have also the practical evaluation. This is done in the actual workplace, usually around months after trainings. This purpose is to see if the learner performance have been improved and it contributes to the organizational goals. And last, we have the measuring return on investment or ROI. So the return on investment evaluates the effectiveness of the training program by comparing the benefit it brings to the cost spent. So in other words, it shows whether the training was worth the investment. The result is usually expressed as a percentage, which make it easy to see how much value the organization gained from the training. Next, Next is the evaluation strategy. So this explains how the evaluation will be conducted, including who is responsible, where it take place, and when it will happen. So first we have the who, which is the responsibility. So this answer who will conduct the evaluation, who will collect the data, who will analyze and interpret the result, and who will decide whether to continue, adjust, or stop the programs. Next is where. So it means the locations. So this refers to the place where the evaluation will be conducted. It could be the classroom, on the job, or combination of both depending on the training program. And last is when. So it means the timing. This refers to the evaluation will happen. It can be done while the course is ongoing to make immediate improvements. At the end of the course, to measure overall learnings, or after a certain period to check if the skills are now and knowledge are being applied effectively on the job. Next. Now we will be talking about the return on investment or ROI. So in return on investment, in return on investment or ROI is a way to measure how much benefits or profits an organization gains compared to the cost it spent. In training programs, or ROI shows if the money spent on employees training is really worth it by checking improvements in skills, productivity, and overall company profits. So the return on investment is calculated by comparing the monetary benefits gained from the training with the cost of training according to Erasmus 2017. So the formula for ROI is return on investment is equal to monetary benefits minus cost of training divided by the cost of training multiplied by 100. So this means we first subtract the training cost from the benefits, then divide the result of the cost of the training, and finally multiply it by 100. So the higher the ROI percentage, the more successful the training is. Next slide. So in practical example on how to calculate the ROI. So the evaluation research determines that there is 10% increase in the number of sales following the implementation of a selling skills training program for an enterprise sales personnel. Other data revealed each 1% increase in sale is equal to increased annual revenue of RAD 250,000. It is known further that the training program cost RAD 75,000. So first, we need to identify our net return. The evaluation showed that the training led to a significant increase in sales, and our net profit from the increase was rand 175,000. This is gain we achieved directly from the program. Next, we accounted for the cost of the investment. This is the total amount we spent on the training program itself, which was the rand 75,000. So by applying these numbers of the formula, we divided the net return of rand 175,000 by the cost of rand 75,000, and then we multiplied it by 100. So to get the percentage, the final result is an return on investment of 233.33%. In simple term, this means that every rand we invested in the training, we got rand 2.33 back in profit. This is the clear indicator that the sales training program was not just a worthwhile expense, it was a highly successful and profitable investment to our company. Next slide. Now that we already know how to calculate the return on investment, let's proceed to evaluation design and process. So in evaluation design and process, we have the plan the program improvements. So this means looking ahead at what changes might be needed to make the program better. Next is to identify the audience. We have to know who will use the evaluation result, like managers, trainers, or other decision makers, and what they need the results for. Next is the state's objectives. Here, we clearly set what we want to achieve with the evaluation, like measuring knowledge, skills, or performance. Next is to develop measuring instrument. These are These are the tools we'll use to collect data such as the surveys, the test, or observational checklist. Next is to gather informations. At this step, we actually collect the data using the tools we prepared. We also have to release information on progress and comparison. This means that we share the result with the audience and compare them with the goals or expected outcomes. Last is to determine the criteria for success and failure. So we set clear standards so we can say if the program worked well or if it needs more improvement. Next slide. So now we have here the evaluation instruments. So when we do an evaluation, we need the right instruments or tools to gather information. So these instruments will help us to check if the training was effective and if the objective were achieved. So according to Erasmus 2017, there were several instruments we can use. The first one is questionnaires. So these are the forms where the participants can share their feedbacks and opinions. Next are the text examinations, which measure the knowledge gained. We also have the skill-based test and this focus on whether the trainees can really apply what they learned. And we have the project where the participant shows their learning through actual work. Another one is structured exercise and case studies, which test decision making and problem solving in real life situations. We can also use tutor reports where trainers write down their evaluations of the trainees. Next is to we have the focus groups are another tool where small groups discuss their experiences and details. Next is the interview with trainees. This is where we can give more personal feedback about the training. Next is observation. It is also important because here we can directly watch how the trainees perform. And lastly, the participation and discussion, which show how active and engaged the trainees were during the program. So now let's move forward to Kirkpatrick's four-level model.
So, good day everyone. I am April Jean B. Bakiran, and today I will be discussing to you the Kirkpatrick's four-level model. So, Kirkpatrick's four-level model is a popular and widely known framework used in training evaluation. This model was created by Donald Kirkpatrick in 1959. This model is still being used even up to this day because this gives a clear and organized way in checking whether the training programs are effective or not. Next, please. Po. Thank you. The Kirkpatrick model has four levels. Each level looks at training success from a different angle. The idea is that training is not just about making people enjoy the session, but also making sure that they learned something, applied it in their jobs, and making it contributed to the success of the organization. So now let's discuss each level. First level is called reaction. This level measures how participants feel about the training. Did they enjoy it? Was the trainer effective? Did they find the materials useful? Reaction is usually measured through feedback forms or surveys that participants answer right after training. This level is important because if participants had a bad experience, they may not be motivated to apply what they learned. However, our reaction alone does not prove if they actually learned something. It only tells us how they felt about the training. Second is the learning. Learning determines whether the training genuinely resulted in information acquisition, skill improvement, or attitude changes for the participants. Assessments, skill demonstrations, and pre and post tests are typically used to gauge learning. For instance, the learning level will determine whether employees can now utilize the new software more effectively than they could previously if the training focused on its application, because it assesses real progress rather than only feelings. This level is more stronger than the reaction, which is the first level. Third level is the behavior. This stage assesses how well participants are using their newly acquired knowledge once they return to their jobs. To put it in another way, it examines if the training actually altered the way people perform their duties. Typically, performance evaluations, observations, and feedback from supervisors and coworkers are used to gauge behavior. Are employees now treating customers better, or are the employees now serving the clients faster? For instance, would be the question at this level if the training is focused on customer service. This level is crucial since knowledge that is not put to use in the business is not very valuable. Results is the fourth and last level. This is where we gauge or measure the training's overall effect on the company. Was production increased as a result of the training? Did sales go up as a result? Did it lower expenses or errors? Did it lower turnover and increase employee satisfaction? At this level, the objectives of the company are the main focus. Analyzing business performance data and contrasting it with the training's goal is often how results are determined. And since training is not the only factor that can impact company outcomes, this is the most valuable level, but also the most difficult to measure. So, to sum it up, level 1 is about how participants reacted to the training. Level 2 is about what they learned. Third is about how they applied it in their work. And fourth is about the results for the organization. So the Kirkpatrick model is effective because it serves as a reminder that training is more than merely hosting an enjoyable workshop. In order to be considered truly successful, participants must gain knowledge, use it in their work, and support organizational development. It also demonstrates that the interrelationships of all levels, a favorable response promotes learning, which in turn promotes behavior modification, which in turn produce improved outcomes. Ultimately, the Kirkpatrick four-level model offers a comprehensive framework for assessing training. It provides us with a methodical approach to determining whether training was pleasurable, successful, useful, and advantageous for the business. By employing this methodology, companies may ensure that their training initiatives are genuine investments that benefit both staff members and the expansion of the company. So now let's move on to the evaluation design. So evaluation design is like an overall structure that we use when we want to measure if a training program really works. So realistically speaking, of course, we can never be 100% sure because there are many factors that change the results, like the work environment or personal motivation. But with a good evaluation design, we can be more confident that the changes we see, such as improved skills, higher performance, or better results, are really caused by the training. Training programs are made to improve employee skills, knowledge, and performance, but without a proper design, it is hard to know if the changes we see are really the results of training or if they happen because of other reasons such as employee motivation, leadership support, or changes in company policies. While no evaluation design can give 100% certainty, a strong design increases our confidence in the results and provides more reliable evidence. Next po. Now let's move on to the types of evaluation designs. So evaluation designs comes in a variety of forms and each has its advantages and disadvantages of its own. The first is next po. Okay. The first is the post-test only design, which measures performance only after the training. At the conclusion of the program, for instance, participants can be asked to take a test. This approach is straightforward and easy, but since we don't have any data from before the training, it doesn't demonstrate how much they improved. Next is the next po. Next is the pre-test and post-test design. This we takes measurement both before and after training. For example, employees takes a test prior to training and another test following training. We can readily tell how much progress was made by comparing the outcomes. This is superior than the post-test solely because it displays the participants' progress. Third, next po. Third is the pre-test or pre-test and post-test with comparison group kind. One of the two groups in this situation receives the instruction while the other does not. So when we compare their outcomes following the training, we can be more certain that the training was the genuine reason for the improvement if the trained group performs better because it lessens the possibility that other factors influence the outcomes, and this approach is more stronger than the first two one. So another method is the statistical procedures method, which isolates the impact of training from other potential factors using data analysis and numerical values. For example, regression or variance analysis can be used to prove that improvements are truly linked to training. This design is often used in bigger organizations that have more data available. Next. Okay. Another kind is the time series design. In time series design, data is gathered multiple times both prior to and following training. We can see trends over time because of this design. So we can We can attribute the shift to the training program. For instance, if employee performance was steady prior to training but only began to increase after the training. And next po. And finally, the Solomon for group design. This is regarded as the most thorough and exacting assessment design. Four groups are used to eliminate nearly all potential uncertainties regarding the outcomes. While some groups receive training, some do not, and uh, some groups take a pretest. In this manner, we have control over nearly every element that could affect the result. It is the most costly and intricate design, though, which makes it challenging to apply in actual business environments. Sorry for that. There are a number of factors to take into account while selecting an assessment design. First, of course, is the company's budget and resources, as more complex designs demand more money, time, and personnel. Second, the evaluation's objective. If it's merely to assess learning, then straightforward designs might be sufficient. But if it's to demonstrate business benefit, however, more stronger designs are required. Third, since certain ideas are too complex to apply in realistic settings, practicality should also be taken into account. Fourth is the management expectations. So management expectations are particularly important since some executives want more proof of training outcomes. And finally is the ideal training strategy depends on the type of instruction because soft skills may need observation or feedback whereas technical skills can be assessed by test. So to sum up, evaluation designs are crucial instruments for training assessments. They offer a clear strategy, reduce doubts, and offer more convincing proof that training had an impact. Every design, no matter how complex or basic, has a purpose and worth. And organizations may make sure that their training initiatives are efficient and in line with their objectives by selecting the appropriate design.
So now let's move on to the evaluation metrics. So when we say evaluation metrics, these are used to evaluate if a particular training is effective or not. So if ever it is not, they can change or adjust the previous training to make it more effective. But how will you know if the training is effective? So we can find out in various ways. So the first one is through training enrollment rate. So, of course, if the objective and the training itself is something that will help a person improve and develop, or if it is something that they are really interested in, of course, they will grab that particular program, which in turn increases the enrollment rate. So, this shows if you effectively convey what the particular training is for. And then the second one is the employee satisfaction and engagement rate. So this is one of the metrics where you will know by the reactions of the trainees. So how they reacted and felt about the training. But how can we measure this? Oh, of course, they can conduct surveys. So if the employees rated it high and are satisfied, that means your training is effective. And then the third one is the productivity and task quality metrics. So this can be seen through their works after they undergo training. So are there any improvements or changes like that? Are they performing better now than before? So if yes, man, then it shows that the training had a positive impact. And then the last one is the pass and fail rates in assessment. So this show if the participant were able to comprehend and understand the training effectively. So if many people pass, it means that the training was clear and effective. But if many failed, then something might need to be improved in the training design. And additionally, um, I would also like to add the cost benefit analysis. So this is different from return on investment or the ROI, since cost benefit analysis compares the benefits of the conducted training to the total cost of conducting that particular training. So if the benefits are higher than the cost, that means that the training program is successful. But how can we know this? So of course we will know that if there are improvements in their work and if the company's performance or the revenues increase as a result of the training.
Okay, so now let's move on to the reporting and feedback. After we collect data through evaluation instruments and analyzing the results, the next important step is the reporting and feedback. This stage is about sharing the findings of the training evaluation with the right people, such as trainers, trainees, managers, and even the whole organization. So reporting and feedback are very important because they make sure that the results of the evaluation are not just stored but are actually used for improvement. Reporting entails, next po, thank you. Reporting entails creating an understandable overview of the assessment's findings. The report typically covers the activities that took place during the training, the participants' reaction, the knowledge they gained, their application of it, and the outcomes they attained in the workplace. The audience determines the reporting style. For instance, managers could prefer reports that highlight outcomes and ROI, whereas trainers would prefer in-depth reporting on behavior modifications and learning. So to make the information easier to understand, reports can be written documents, presentations, or even a visual chart. Next po. Ayan. In contrast, feedback focuses on providing information directly to the individuals involved, particularly trainers and trainees. Feedback informs learners of their performance, lessons learned, and areas for improvement. Feedback help trainers identify what went well in the training and what needs to be changed for subsequent sessions. Feedback should be prompt, concise, and constructive so that individuals may immediately use it to do better. It is important it is impossible to overlook how important reporting and feedback are. The results of evaluations would be useless without them. Organizations can use reporting to determine whether to continue, improve, or discontinue training. Feedback aids in participant skills and knowledge development as well as trainers' approach adjustments. They complete the training process by working together to plan, deliver, evaluate, and ultimately improve. In summary, um, the last but most important phases in training assessments are the reporting and feedback, because they guarantee that the gathered data is transformed into practical measures. Reports give decision makers data, and feedbacks help trainees and trainers get better. Training programs become stronger, more effective, and more advantageous for the entire organization when reporting and feedback are done correctly.
So now let's proceed to the case study. So I'll provide with you guys the case study example. So the first one is the effectiveness of applications of knowledge of agricultural training among farmer scientists training participants in the Philippines. So the first example is the case study about the Farmer Scientist Training Program, or the FSTP. So it was conducted in two municipalities in Luzon, so from 2020 to 2022. So this program was carried out by the Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Training Institute, University of the Philippines of Los Baños, and then the local government units. Um, A total of 43 farmers participated in this study, and their experiences were evaluated using Kirkpatrick's training evaluation model, which was discussed a while ago. So the first level is the reaction. So the study found that 88.4% of the farmers said the training was relevant and useful for them as farmers. So they were satisfied because the training gave them updated knowledge in agriculture, especially in corn production. However, some farmers also shared that aside from knowledge, they needed more support such as seeds and fertilizers. So this shows that the program was really helpful, but there's still areas for improvement. And after that, we have the level 2, which is learning. So all the 43 farmers were able to explain and recall what they learned from the training. So they did not only learn technical skills such as modern corn planting techniques, soil testing, and pest management, but also they learned non-technical skills like leadership and record keeping. So this shows that the program met its goal of teaching both farming and management skills. And then after the level 2, we have the level 3, which is the behavior. So around about 76.7% of the farmers applied the what they learn in their own farms. So, for example, one of the participants told that instead of just applying fertilizer once, they now use soil test kits and apply fertilizer properly in stages: basal, dressing, and side dressing. So these changes show that the training influenced their actual farming practices. But there are downsides because not all farmers applied the lessons. Some were too old to continue farming, and some said they struggled in life because they have poor irrigation and land suitability, since the corn production is not suitable to the land of what they have. And then the last one, the last level is the level 4. So the result. So the result of applying these new practices were very positive. So the farmers said that they have an increase in income, lower costs, and there's fewer pests in their farm. They also became more progressive as farmers and as community members. They were also able to build stronger relationship with fellow farmers, which improved cooperation and sharing of knowledge. So, this case study shows how successful the training are in transferring knowledge and improving farmers' practices. But however, the study also highlighted challenges like lack of farmer inputs and poor irrigation. But still, after all, the after train programs were way far more better than before conducting the training. So, using Kirkpatrick's model helped measure not just what the farmers learn, but also help change their behavior and improve their lives. So, these conducted training programs brought and allowed them to gain knowledge, as well as those knowledge are being applied to real practices and produce a successful results to them as a farmer. Next slide po. So another example that I can give is the training evaluation, a case study of measuring impact and return on investment from Idaho National Laboratory. So where the impact of training evaluation and return on investment is what I said, it's from Idaho National Laboratory. So the Appointed Safety and Security DOE Regulatory Program, or SSDRP, compliance officers or coordinators were tasked to screen for non-compliance or those who does not follow safety rules and regulations. So the training was revised and feedback was collected from the previous compliance officers or coordinators about their experiences and of course the training itself. So from their data, the first level of Kirkpatrick's models, which is the reaction, trainers showed positive feedback and were satisfied with the program. And then in level 2, which is the learning, it scored about 4.7 to 4.9, which was relatively high, which simply shows that they understood the training process. While in level 3, the application, they were able to show greater confidence and competency in doing their job role, which scored 88%. And with that percentage, the training program helped the employee to improve. And the last level, which is the level 4, um, the business impact. So the training provides or results in getting intangible benefits such as employee engagement, corporate responsibility, and career progression. So from this, it is evident that this training really impacted the company. So the total program cost was about $405,000, which then resulting in getting an ROI or return on investment of 16.8% and a benefit cost ratio of 1.17, which basically means the benefits acquired from the training conducted was greater than the cost of the training. So it resulted positively. So the training was able to positively contribute to employees wherein they have improvements in engagement, corporate responsibility, and career progression. Aside from that, it also helped the organization save costs and at the same time positively impact employee performance, which could lead to greater success. Since the training provided more value than what it cost, the organization was able to save about $473,000. That's all. Thank you.
Good day to everyone. I am Lovely de Guzman, and today I'll be sharing some scenarios and questions about Kirkpatrick's four-level evaluation model and return on investment, or ROI, in training. To make our discussion more engaging, I'm prepared some scenarios that will help us to better understand and how each level of evaluation works in our real life situation. So I prepared some first scenario. After customer service training, employees are asked to comply a feedback form rating from trainees type, the relevance of topics, and overall useful of the session. So in this scenario, after attending a customer service in training, the employee are asked to fill out a feedback form in this company. This form is designed to capture their initial reaction about the session, such as how effective the trainee was presenting on their initial reaction, how relevant and applicable they found the topics, and how useful of the entire trainee felt to them. The focus is not yet what they learn about their initial reaction or how they apply it in themselves, but on their personal perception and satisfaction with the training experience. So the question is, which level of Greek practice model does this evaluation belong to and why? So what do you think? What is the Greek practice model does this evaluation belong to? So yes, it's belong to the reaction or the level 1 because employee are giving immediate feedback to the training experience. It measures their satisfaction and engagement. So next scenario is a group of sales staff attended the workshop on negotiation techniques. At the end of the training, they are given a written test rather and a role play activity to measure what they learn. So in this scenario, the sales staff completed a workshop on negotiation techniques, and right after the training, they were asked to take a written text and participate in role-playing activity. These activities are designed to direct measure the knowledge that they acquire skills that they can demonstrate. Uh, the purpose is not about to check their feelings, but about the training, but also to determine what they have actually understood, retained, and how they can apply the concept taught during the session. So, what the question here in our second scenario? The question is, what is the type of evaluation is being done here, and how this it show effectiveness in the sales staff that they attended on workshop? How what do you think? Yes, it's a level 2 of Kirkpatrick model method, which is a learning because employees are being tested on what they understood and retained from the workshop. The best tests and role play are direct measure of knowledge and skill that they gain in the workshop. Negotiation techniques. Next is the 3 months after the training, supervise observe the employees and now apply new negotiation techniques during real client meetings, leading to smoother conversation and more closed deals. So, in this scenario, focus is on what will happen in the next months and the next years after the training, not immediately after, but also to supervise and observe the employee client in a real client meetings and notice that they are now using negotiation techniques that they learn from the training. The result the result is include smoother conversation with their clients and more deals being closed. This show that the employees are transferring rather what they learn in training into the actual work behavior. And what is the question here is which is the level of quick practice model and being evaluated and what data collection method could best support this observation. So for you guys, what do you think? Yes, you're correct. And the level of behavior, the Kirkpatrick's level method. Since supervisors are checking if employees apply the new negotiation techniques on their jobs, observation and performance reviews are reflect and effective data collection methods on this scenario. Next is Next scenario is after the training program, the company reports a 15% increase in overall sales revenue and a noticeable noticeable raise in customer satisfaction score. In this scenario, the company is looking at the overall impact of the training program on their key business and on their outcomes. After the employees applied, what they learn after the company record a 15% in their increase in salary revenue and also notice a rise customers satisfaction score. These are not just individual skills or behaviors, but also a tangible and organizational level result that directly benefit on their business. So the question here is how does the scenario reflect the result level of evaluation and why it's important for the organization? What do you think, guys? Yes, is the last level of Kirkpatrick's model methods, which is the result. Because the company is seeing measurable organizational improvements, higher sales revenue, and improved customer satisfaction, it showed the training direct impact on the business outcome. And the last scenario is a company invested 200,000 in the training and later calculated that the benefits, increased sales and cost savings amounted to 500,000. So in this scenario, the company spent 200,000 to conduct a training program. After the training, they measured the financial gains in terms of increased sales and cost savings, which added to 500,000 pesos to determine if the training was worth in investment and of their company compared the benefit against the cost by calculating the return on investment or ROI. So, what is the question here? Um, we need to compute the ROI percentage rather if the training is considered a good investment. So, next slide. This is our formula for ROI or return on investment in this scenario. So first we're gonna identify the given values of this scenario. First is training cost is 200,000 pesos. The benefits is 500,000 pesos and we need to calculate net benefits. So our net benefits 500,000 pesos minus 200,000 pesos equal to 300,000 pesos. So we need to apply the ROI formula or the return on investment formula. So ROI percentage equal to 300,000 over 200,000 times 100. So the the um the answer is ROI percent 1.5 times 100 is equal to 150% of return on investment. So the ROI or the return on investment is 100%, which means the training return one half times its cost. So yes, it's considered as good investment to their company. So next, we proceed to our key takeaways. So number one, Kirkpatrick's model give a step-by-step framework to evaluate training impact from learner satisfaction to organizational result. Second is return on investment calculating goes further by showing the financial value of training compared to its cost. The third is evaluation design must be chosen carefully to align with the goals and context of the training program. Fourth is the data collection methods. It's to strengthen the validity of the evaluation. Next is our conclusion for this topic. To summarize all of this, Greek practice have four levels offer a systematic approach to assess the effectiveness of training, while learning to measure return on investment or ROI helps convert the result into financial terms for the organization, determining and choosing a suitable evaluation design to enhance their credibility of your result and using a range of data collection methods enable to reliable and true evaluation. To combine these practices provide rather a comprehensive framework to evaluate training programs to illustrate both their effectiveness and developing people as well as their values and strategic investment for organizational success. So, the CREEP Practice 4 level of evaluation model is to measure training effectiveness from participant reaction to organizational result. While again, return on investment or ROI is translate this outcome into a financial value. Together, they provide a complete picture or show that training is both beneficial for employee and work while investment for our organization. That's it. Thank you for listening.
So, just like what Roy H. Williams said, training is not an expense, but an investment in human capital. So, you should not view training as waste of money, but rather view it as an investment for the employees because this will able them to improve their skills, their knowledge, which will have a positive effect to the company or to the business that you have. That's all. Next slide. So these are the various resources used in creating this presentation. So that concludes our discussion. And I hope you gained something meaningful today, especially in evaluating training, which you can apply in your future endeavors. Thank you and have a great day. God bless.